This is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. I'm Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's director of simulcasting, and we're going to take a look at a full day of graded stakes races at Belmont Park. It's kind of a mini Breeders' Cup, culminating with the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as the 11th race, a little after 6:30 Eastern Time. Jim, will start in the third race with the Woody Stevens for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs and a big favorite there in Competitive Edge. Can you pick against that one?
Well, probably not. And Belmont's taken the show wagering off the menu for this one because they think everybody would bridge jump on Competitive Edge. And it would be hard to figure that he's not going to run at least third. Progressive buyers from 90 to 95 to 102 won the Pat Day Mile for fun last time out at Churchill. So only thing I can say that he's never run at Belmont. Classy Class is 2 for 2 at Belmont. So does that home court advantage translate to a difference in 12 buyer points off their tops? Probably not, but I think Classy Class is the only alternative to Competitive Edge. If you're looking at a 2 to 5 on Competitive Edge and maybe a 3 to 1 on Classy Class, Kieran McLaughlin obviously gets his horses ready and came off an allowance win at Belmont and broke his maiden at Belmont. So there's been no problem with him liking the track. So 7 furlongs, he's shortening up, but he ought to like that distance as well. Ready for Rye actually won a 7 furlong race at Gulfstream, got a 105 buyer in the Swale, but came back to Aqueduct and didn't run that well in the Bay Short at 6 to 5. So I'm not sure that he's going to be up to Competitive Edge. Going to be hard to beat him, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't pick against him either. I think he's just, you either skip the race or single him in horizontal wagers. If you're looking for an exact, the one you mentioned, Classy Class, is the logical one to use with him. And you could box those two, and maybe Classy Class wins, upsets him, and you get a price. And then March just is maybe a horse that's improving. You could try him for a little better price underneath. But Competitive Edge for me as well in the Woody Stevens. Fourth race is the Jaipur on the turf. It's 6 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up. A lot of these horses are used to running 5, 5.5. This is 6. Did that impact how you decided to play this one?
Well, it's an interesting race, and I couldn't throw out a lot of horses in here, and I like a couple of horses that are going to be prices. It does influence you when you're looking at a horse that's a 5.5 furlong specialist, like Power Alert, for example. I mean, Power Alert's last 4 races has run well, but they've all been 5 and 5.5. So I'm not going to take Power Alert, although I would put him in certainly my pick 3s and pick 4s. The horse I settled on was a filly, ageless, running against the boys. She's done that before. She almost won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at Santa Anita, so she can run 6.5 furlongs down the hill. I don't think 6 furlongs on the flat at Belmont's going to be a problem for her. She comes off a very nice tightener in the very one at Pimlico at 5 furlongs, and she was closing. I mean, she was killing it at the end. Now, that's against fillies, and this one's not. But I think that in the sprint race on the turf, I think you can go with a nice filly, and she's certainly a nice one. So I'm going to take Ageless on top, the 4-horse. I would use Power Alert. I would use something extra, the 6 underneath. I would use Channel Marker, which he could win the race for Philip Bauer from the outside. He didn't run well at Churchill, but take you to Shakertown. He almost won Shakertown against something extra. So Channel Marker the 10. And the horse that I like at a price doesn't show much turf experience, only has been on the turf 4 times, but changed hands from Tom Amos to Joe Sharp is Bellarmine. And you go back to Bellarmine's races at Churchill and Keeneland last spring, and they fit well with this class. And he hasn't run that great lately, but maybe a change in Barnes helps him out, and he's going to be 30 to 1. So if you look at those last 2 works at Churchill, 47-2 and 47 breezing. I think he's coming into the race very well, and he might be a shot to put underneath there. But I would take Ageless, the filly of the mare, trying the boys.
I loved Power Alert on Oaks Day and got a nice price, I think about 5 to 1. But because of the 6 furlongs, I'm doing the same thing you are. I'm going to Ageless. I like that race against the boys in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. It was 6.5 furlongs. This is her 3rd race off a layoff, so she might even have a little more improvement left. And the big track there, I think suits her style. Just a lot of reasons to like Ageless, and I don't think she'll be favored, which is another reason to like her in here. So I'll use her with Power Alert, with 5 Unbridled's Note, who has run well. If you look far enough back in turf sprints out west at 6.5. So certainly can handle this type of race. Channel Marker I would use as well, and the 8 Helwan. Those would be the 4 I would use. King around Ageless. I think she's going to run really well, and good chance to be first or second. She's my pick to win the Jaipur as well. 5th race is the Ogden Phipps. I tried to beat Untapable in here. I don't think she's looked as good as she was last year yet. Maybe this will be the breakout race. Probably foolish to try to beat her, but and I wouldn't invest a whole lot to try to do it. But just because she'll be such a favorite, if she's not back to her best yet, then you'll get a better than you should expect price on some other good horses. I'm going to try Wedding Toast because of the 3-for-4 record at Belmont and how good she looked last time with a 97 buyer. Use her in exactas with Untapable, with Princess Violet, and with Rosalind. And Rosalind intrigues me a little bit, getting back to the dirt now in Chad Brown's barn. But I'm going to take Wedding Toast to upset him in the Ogden Phipps. How about you?
Yeah, we really don't talk about this prior to the podcast, but I'm right with you again. Wedding Toast would be my picked up set. Untapable is obviously the best horse in a race. There's no doubt. She may be absolutely one of the best horses running on Belmont Day, but she hasn't run back to her form last year yet. She really didn't look very good in the Azeri the first time out at Oaklawn, and she came back in the Apple Blossom. I just didn't think that field was very tough. So she hasn't gotten back there. She may blow them out, and I hope she does. I love her. I'd love to watch her run. But Wedding Toast would be my pick from a wagering standpoint because of the 3-for-4 at Belmont. And the last race, the Ruffian, she won by 4 and at a mile, and so she ought to love the mile and 16th, and got a good foundation of this race with 4 good races in a row. She didn't run that great in the Madison, but she came back in the Ruffian and ran much better. So I'm going to take Wedding Toast on top to 2, with Untapable the 4, and I would use Rosalind underneath as well, the 1 horse.
Moving on to the 6th race, the Grade 2 Brooklyn. This one for 4-year-olds and up, 1.5 miles. So once around, it's a good tune-up for the TV crew and the jockeys that will be riding back in the Belmont Stakes. Who'd you like in the Brooklyn?
I like Coach Engie, the 1 for Repo and Todd Pletcher. He ran in a great race on a muddy track at Aqueduct last out in an optional $62,000 claimer. Maybe it was the muddy track that moved him way up, but a 104 buyer just jumps off the screen at me. I like his inside speed, and I'm going to assume Red Rifle is not going in this race. If he does, he would be one of my picks because early speed is very important in this race. So I'm assuming he's going to scratch out and run in the turf race on Friday. So with that caveat, I'm going to pick Coach Engie. My second choice, and especially if Red Rifle is in, would be FNX, the 5, for Jimmy Jerkins. Had a 107 buyer last out in the Excelsior, came from out of it at 1.25 miles and looked like he wanted to run some more and beat Wicked Strong and Red Rifle in that race. So Coach Engie is my top pick. FNX would be my second pick, with the caveat that if Red Rifle runs, I would throw him in the mix. Ever Rider, the 7, Wealth to Me, the 4, Sky Kingdom, the 10, and Tacticus, the 11, all have mile and a half wins, and that's very important when you look at this kind of odd distance. So very important, and we'll see how Victor Espinoza practices up on Sky Kingdom for the big race a little later on.
I like Red Rifle if he goes here. I like that 106 buyer last time. He's got some 1.5 mile experience. It's a different animal than 1.25 miles, and his came on the turf, but still he's run that marathon distance before, and I think he's just in a great spot to go wire to wire. But if he runs in the turf, obviously he's not going to run both days. So I would then maybe take a look at, certainly FNX, but he'll be bet so heavily off that last race. I think I might try to beat him with Ever Rider, the 7. That would be my backup choice. I think he's got some back class that would be good enough on his best day to put him in the mix. Neck and Neck is another one I like in there. So maybe a 4-horse exacta box of those 4. But if Red Rifle goes, he's the pick. If not, I'll go to Ever Rider for my pick in the Brooklyn. 7th race is for 3-year-old fillies going a flat mile. It's the Acorn. And it's a tough little challenge here. Who did you land on?
Well, guess who I'm going to pick here? Since I was right the last time with Promise Me Silver at Churchill, we kind of laughed about Promise Me Silver not having the class to win the 8 bells, but She's 8 for 8 now. So she was 7 for 7. I picked her that day, even though she'd been running to Oaklawn and Houston and Retama. Mike Smith gets her here for Brett Calhoun, and I love the race that she ran the 8 bells. She won at 5-1 that day. I'm going to stick with her, even though she's moving up in class. She's never run against the likes of Shook Up and Condo Commando, but I'm going to take her. Until somebody beats her, I'm going to keep picking her. So Promise Me Silver, we've not picked on top, the 9 horse. Shook Up the 8, I would think is a good key for second. Only 1 win, so she's still eligible for non-winners of 2 lifetime because she has 4 seconds, and one of those seconds came in the Fairground Oaks behind I'm a Chatterbox and a second in her maiden special weight. So she likes to run second. She may not be good enough, and she ran second in the Oaks to Lovely Maria. So the Jones fillies are not in here. So Shook Up is probably going to be the favorite, but I'm going to take Promise Me Silver to upset her. I'm going to use Miss Ella, the 11, with lots of upside, only 2 lifetime races, 2 for 2 for Grand Motion, and Condo Commando, the 7. Could be tough on the lead. I didn't like her in the Oaks, and I don't really like her today, but I could see her getting a fairly easy lead in this race and going a long way for Rosario.
I did not have a strong opinion in this race. I ended up deciding to take a flyer with Light the City. First time McLaughlin, which, Kieran's been red hot, starting back with a Keeneland meet in April. This horse is working well, kept some top company out on the West Coast. So she's running, high stakes races, grade 1 type races against Stellar Wind out there. If she takes to the surface here, she could get overlooked a little bit. And without a clear standout for me, I decided to try to shop for a bit of a price. I would use Promise Me Silver, Shook Up, Carolina, who was so impressive last time for Pletcher. Big step up in class here to a grade 1. But Pletcher does pick his spots well, so that one intrigues me. And the 2 Wonder Gal as well. Condo Commando I like. So this was a tough challenge for me. I think I'd do maybe an exacta box of the ones I mentioned, as many of them as you could take. I'd rank them, Light the City, Shook Up, Promise Me Silver, Carolina, Wonder Gal. Then, so that's 5. If you want to do a 5-horse box or cut off the last one, Wonder Gal, and cut it to 4. But I'm going to take Like the City for an upset in the grade 1 Acorn. 4 races left on the Saturday card, and we'll take a look at that all-stakes pick 4 races 8 through 11 in a separate podcast. For Jim Goodman, I'm Tom Leach, and this is the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.